All right, welcome everybody to 435 Wrestling. We're on episode 5 now.
Making it big time. Five episodes.
That's right. Who would have thought we made it this far, huh? Who would have thought? So, I hope everybody had a chance to watch our last two episodes. We were interviewing Luke Lofhouse as well as Davey Swenson. I really enjoyed the interviews. I mean, there's a lot of key points that I got out of them, and I highly recommend you go out there and check them out, watch them. Let us know your thoughts. Even questions that you have for when we do, interviews in the future. I know they're a little bit long, but I do think they're worth the listen. All right, hop on the treadmill or whatever and listen to them.
A lot of wisdom. Davey, over 40 years of coaching. Luke, not 40 years, but NCAA All-American. Just started a club and has got coaching experience at two different D1 universities.
Yeah,
A lot of good stuff.
he's kind of got to see both ends of the spectrum, right? He's got to see a really established program, and try and bring that wisdom over to a newer program at UVU. So, well, let's kind of hop into it today. Today we're going to talk. We're trying to direct this a little bit more towards the parents and newer wrestlers as well. Talking about the season, kind of what to expect into your wrestling season. What does it look like for your duels, for your tournaments, overnight tournaments, right? And then as we approach, moratorium, then divisional, state, etc.
Yeah. Well, I'll jump in here a little bit. So the season schedule, the official practices start in November. A lot of places will do preseason practices. So right now we're in September, and a lot of schools like at Ridgeline we're doing preseason. Green Canyon girls are doing preseason. A lot of places are doing that. But the official practices start in November, where wrestling's a winter sport, and they kind of have the state has outlined when that can start. So once those practices start, those will be every day. And at Ridgeline with our boys, we're after school every day. Green Canyon girls, I'm not sure. Are you guys going to be before or after school?
Yeah, we're after school.
So, and some of that fluctuates on the year. Girls and boys programs, sometimes they flip flop or whatever. Um, Melanie's been great and has told me that as of right now, with the young kids, it works better for her to be the mornings. I'm sure at some point that may change, but boys,
Cross
we've
the
been after
bridge when it
school.
comes to it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's been great to work with. So, but yeah, we gotta be good back. But so yeah, that'll start in November, and since because it's winter, we cross through the Thanksgiving moratorium. You got 3 days around Thanksgiving where you won't have any practice. Actually, let's see, it's Thursday, Friday,
I think
Saturday, Sunday, I think is the
yeah,
moratorium.
yeah.
So there's no practices around then. And then Christmas time, there's always, I believe it's a 5 day period of moratorium, either right before or right after Christmas, that the state has set aside where you can't hold any practices. So your coaches will know about that and kind of let you know when that is. But there's moratorium periods, but we'll continue through January, and then the state tournament is usually in mid-February, usually right around Valentine's Day, which if you have a spouse or a significant other is not ideal, but you try to find other ways to make it up to them after state tournament.
Yeah, kind of been a common thing. At least I know in your relationships as well as mine, right? I mean, just coaching for as long or being around sport of wrestling, even as wrestlers, right? I mean, just you're always gone on Valentine's. It feels so
Yep.
not always, not always fun. Well, And I think that kind of covers a lot of like the basics, kind of what your season looks like. I just adding on to that too. I know that we talked about hydration as well, um, in earlier episodes, and you will have that hydration at some point at the beginning of your season. I don't know if it's the first or second week. I mean, I don't think I've gotten mine emailed out to me yet or when it is, but we do have that.
Usually, yeah, usually it's like the second Friday of practice is we've is what I've experienced. So kind of get your 2 full weeks of practice, kids get in shape a little bit, and then you got hydration before Thanksgiving, and then you're ready to jump into competitions after Thanksgiving. That's usually how it works. You can compete before Thanksgiving, I believe. There's a set date when competitions
Yeah,
can start. And a lot of times it'll be like that Monday before Thanksgiving. You could compete if you want. I personally, as a coach, don't do it that early, but I know some programs that do.
we had it on our schedule this year to do it, and I canceled it because I remember being a wrestler and wrestling at like the Turkey Dart in Davis and hating it on that Wednesday before Thanksgiving or whatever. Just like last thing I want to do is make weight and go, wrestle at night on a weekday, a turn like 4 matches or whatever it is, 3 matches, and then be gone. So, but let's talk a little bit more about now just what a dual day looks like, right? So coming in, I mean, and I'm not familiar with what all the exact times. We'll just do like estimates here, but a lot of times, they're going to come, they're going to weigh in at like 4, right? So both teams will get there. You'll weigh in about 4, and then they'll give you about an hour and a half ish, I'd say, maybe less. And JV will start. I guess it depends on your team sizes, right? I know for girls they have told me they start at like 5:30, but I think the JV matches, they're done with their JV in 30 to 45 minutes for the most part. Some boy teams, like I know Green Canyon Boys and Ridgeline, have quite a large, team here. So they might have to start like 5.
Yeah, we've had to do that, and technically, you're supposed to weigh in only an hour before JV starts. So that's what we try to do. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way because you're trying to get the mat set up, and then the coaches have to sit down and do the matchups on track wrestling on the computer. So sometimes it ends up being a little more than an hour, but that's what you shoot for. So, but yeah, either 5 or 5:30 is generally when, and we say JV. What that means is also like JV and extras. So like a third string, fourth string would be considered an extra. So those usually begin at either 5 or 5:30, and then generally the varsity matches begin at 7. I know with our region.
I'm having a
Um,
hard time hearing you all of a sudden, Jarrett. I don't know if you.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I
There you
probably
go.
just in over the mic. Sorry.
That's what it was. I hear you good
So
now.
yeah, my bad. So with the Tooele County schools we got, they've kind of pushed to try to, I think, make some of our duels at like either 6 or 6:30 since there's that longer travel time. So when that's the case, you might have an earlier duel, but if it's another like Valley School or Bear River, you'll stick to that schedule of usually like the 5:30 JV, 7 o'clock varsity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say I do think I know that a lot of the girls stuff. I think a lot of our varsity starts at 6:15 to 6:30 this year, so might be a little bit different just for them. I don't know why that is. It's my first year coaching girls, so we'll see why. But um, that's that. And and I think that's kind of a basic rundown on how like your duel is gonna look. Let's talk tournaments here for a second. There's 3 main tournament types. You got like a round robin tournament, you got a bracketed tournament, and then you got a team tournament. I would say those are the 3 main ones. I don't think there's any others really. So a lot of tournaments that you'll see, you go to on the weekend, they'll be fall into one of those 3 categories. And so when you're competing and they're going out there, if it's a team one, it's pretty easy because you're just doing, a duel versus duel. It's a dual tournament, right? So you're in the same lineup, everything like that. Maybe you have 2 teams submitted, the JV and the varsity going out there, and they're just wrestling another team. You're going through your whole lineup. They'll tell you a weight that you're starting at. and you're going through. So parents, you can kind of be there and know when your kid's gonna wrestle, because if they're one 32 pounder or whatever, right? They're gonna be around that time every time.
Yeah. Yeah, dual tournaments are nice. I always like to start the season off with some of them because those are guaranteed
Yeah.
matches. The bracketed tournaments are double elimination until you get to the placing rounds. Then you might lose more than twice if you take like sixth place. But basically, that double elimination means you keep going until you've lost twice. If you lose twice, you're eliminated and you're done wrestling. So that's how the state tournament is. That's how divisionals are. That's how a lot of tournaments are. So the better you are, the more you longer you're going to go, and the more matches you're going to get. Um, if you're not as good, or maybe if you just have a bad tournament, you might get defeated, and you might only get two matches.
Yep.
So that's how the brackets go. But yeah, back to the dual style tournament. So the whole team gets a match every time. I should say everybody on the team, even if you lost, the previous duel. We go to Syracuse Scuffle a lot of times as our first tournament. So, and we'll get like 8 duels in 2 days, which I like to get a lot of mat time. Kind of helps us get in shape, and you also have kind of enough rest time between matches, and you know exactly when your match is coming up, so you can have more time to get mentally prepared for your match. And like you mentioned, for the parents, it's a more predictable schedule too, of knowing when your kid's going to wrestle. So there's pros and cons to that, but I like I said, the dual tournaments take longer, right?
Yeah.
That might be one of the cons, but you get a lot more matches. So
And we like those guaranteed matches, and that's kind of the same as like the round robin tournaments. Like Green Canyon, the boys go to Olympus the first week in December, and they get 13 matches over 2 days, which is a lot of matches. But they just round robin against however many schools pretty much come there, and they get that fill.
a
So
lot. I thought the limit,
yeah, it's
you know,
close.
get like 10 matches in 2 days,
And
but
maybe it's
but
11, maybe it's only
uh,
11. But I was
yeah,
pretty sure Will had 13 matches 2 years ago there, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of matches.
I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble here. I don't care if you get 13 matches, but there's some kind of limit.
Yeah,
I thought it was 10, but it might be something else.
I thought it was 8 and 6. Maybe it's
Yeah, something like that. So I did want to mention one thing with the tournaments and with the duels. So you always got to weigh in every day of competition,
yeah,
and they do a skin check. The referees do. So basically, the wrestlers are like they have their singlet on, and the refs will have them like spread your arms, kind of scan their skin, turn around, looking for any kind of um, skin infection. Right? If you've got something, then you're not supposed to wrestle.
yeah,
So that takes place before any competition. And if you have, like, say you wrestle a duel on a Thursday, and that's your first match of the week, then you have to make the scratch weight. So, like, if your weight class is 106, you got to make 106. If you then wrestle Friday 2 days in a row, you get 1 pound. So instead of making 106 again, you can make 107. And if you wrestle a third day in a row, you can make 108 instead of 107 or 106. So they add 1 pound, and but you only get two as a maximum. So it would never go above the plus 2 pounds. But you have to make weight every day of competition. With There might be some rare exceptions um, of tournaments doing that. Oh, we were up at the Tiger Grizz not last year, but the year before, and the JV tournament was getting over at like 11 at night, and the head guy gets everybody together and he goes, "It's super late. We were going to do a night weigh-in, but is everybody okay if we just say no weigh-ins? We're going home."
yeah.
And so we actually didn't have, but that's pretty rare. That was a time constraint thing. I've only ever run into that once.
Hmm.
So usually you've always got to make weight for your tournament, and definitely in the postseason, you would never not have
Yeah.
to make it. You'd always have to make it at divisionals and make it at state.
Yeah. And let's elaborate on that too. So come New Year's, what happens after New Year's then as well when it comes to weight?
Yeah, you get two, what they call 2 growth pounds. So it doesn't apply until January 1st. So, but when that happens, the 106 weight class now permanently becomes 108. And that happens to every weight class. And we talked about those consecutive day allowances. So now if you wrestle Thursday, it's 108. You wrestle Friday, you get to be 109. Saturday, if you're a third day in a row, you'd be 110. And it would, like I said, it would never go above +2. So it'd never be above 110, but you get those 2 pounds, which I'm every wrestler I think says a prayer of gratitude
Yeah.
at Christmas time for those +2 pounds because you go home
You pretty much.
or you go on Christmas vacation, you relax, you eat a lot, and it's tough to get back down if you didn't have those +2 pounds.
I'm pretty sure we know multiple people who had to move up weight classes, after not being able to get back down back in the day. Um, that's a great point here. I think one other thing we want to touch base on too is just we'll go over track wrestling in another episode as well, and that's a great tool for these bracketed tournaments where you have your lot of the two losses, right? So you can kind of see where you're coming up in the tournament, right? You can see what the bout number they're currently at and what bout number you're scheduled at. So, and you can see if they're wrestling a championship round only, because sometimes it'll be championship round only, consolation round only, and then they'll mix it, champion and consolation, whatever it may be. So you can kind of see where you're at on your wrestling. So we'll go over that, I think, track wrestling in a future episode, though, just to touch base on that.
I did want to maybe just touch on what a standard week looks like as well. So usually you'll have practice Monday, Tuesday. Every now and then I have a duel on a Tuesday, but I try to avoid those because it's hard to. You make weight Saturday, you go home, relax. Sunday, there's nothing. It's hard to turn around and make weight if you're somebody that's trying to lose weight on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Possible, but it's not easy. So every now and then we'll have one, but usually it'll be like Monday there's a practice, Tuesday there's a practice. Some weeks you got a Wednesday duel, some weeks you don't. That's the case. You got a Wednesday practice, if not a Wednesday duel, and then usually you're competing like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Um, in the week, like we said with the duels, those would just be in an evening, and it would just be like your school versus one other school. There's some exceptions to that with what they call like tri duels, quad duels, where you might get like 2 duels in the same night, but usually, more commonly, would just be a single duel on the same night. And then the tournaments are usually Friday and Saturday. Occasionally, you'll run into like a Saturday only tournament, but most of them are like Friday, Saturday. So we'll take a bus. We'll go spend a lot of time, fun time together in a gym. Coaches, I'll go lose my voice over a weekend, yelling way too much. Um, but uh, but yeah, that's kind of how a standard week looks.
And I will say for girls wrestling, having just done our schedule, we only have two Friday Saturday tournaments. So we have a lot of one day Saturday tournaments. So coming from boys where I don't think we had one Saturday tournament to going to girls where, it's kind of switched on me. So there is
Yep.
that difference.
A lot of that I think is driven by numbers. Girls wrestling is still gaining traction, and
Yeah.
it's the fastest growing sport in the United States, but it's still growing a lot. And so, because of lesser numbers, sometimes I do the whole tournament in one day. As with the boys, with higher numbers, it just takes more time to get through all the matches, and so
Yeah.
a lot of times those end up being 2 day tournaments.
Well, I think we're getting pretty close to that time limit we wanted to go to this on this episode, but there's a couple things we wanted to touch on too. Number one, we want to talk just briefly about food. We'll talk more about it in another episode, but I think talking about it right now, just briefly, will really be a little bit helpful as you're listening to this and getting ready for the season. And the second thing is, though, the World Wrestling Championships just finished, and we're gonna do another episode talking about that. But I highly recommend, get out there, start watching some wrestling. There's nothing better to learn. Like we watch football, we watch soccer, we watch baseball, right? Our kids watch it. They go out there and then they practice and everything that they're seeing. You know, these professional athletes, these world class athletes do. It should be the same for wrestling, right? We get with technology nowadays and the internet and how easy it is to see our sport. It's never been easier to see our sport at the highest level. So I really recommend going in there and taking a look at them.
Yeah, YouTube's is has got almost every match out there
Yeah.
on YouTube. So look up Trent Hidlay, world champ. Look up Zahid Valencia, just won world championship. Look up Kyle Snyder, just won world championship. Levi Haynes just won the silver. He's still a college wrestler. It's amazing. He's in college. He won world silver, and Real Woods just won a bronze. So some great wrestlers that you should go check out.
Yeah. And I'd even say, I mean, not to just name everyone, but even the David Carr, his bronze medal match that I won't ruin it for you, but it was a very good match. Highly recommend that one as well. He's wrestling a multiple world time champion. So yeah. But yeah, Jared, do you want to give us a quick rundown then on what you've been telling your wrestlers that they should be shoving their face with after maybe a weigh in at a duel?
Yep. For me, the biggest concern is not eating too much. Again, we're hoping, we're a lot of wrestling is changing about not cutting too much weight because it's hard to turn around and wrestle hard if you've been restricting your calories. So, um, hopefully that's not happening. But sometimes you still are losing like, I don't know, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, which isn't much, especially if you're like close to 200 pounds. But a big concern for me is don't go eat too much. This was a mistake I would make a lot when I was losing weight. Is I've been thinking about what I'm going to eat after weigh-ins all day because I was hungry. My stomach's growling, and I shove everything in sight in my mouth. And you want to be smart. First of all, don't don't just pound the food. Put in what you need. Have the discipline after a weigh-in to have enough, but not put too much because if you eat too much, you're going to go out and feel bloated, and you're not going to be able to wrestle as good as you could. So I'll talk maybe about food, and then Clint, if you want to talk about what you drink. But I think you want some simple carbohydrates. So that could be like fruit snacks, could be a piece of fruit, could be something like a peanut butter and honey sandwich or peanut butter and jelly. Um, so a little bit of carbohydrates, a little bit of protein. I would avoid dairy. Something like dairy is going to sit heavy on your stomach and take a little bit longer to digest. I think I might have told a story
You
about
told the
pounding
chocolate
chocolate
milk
in
story, so no
one of our
chocolate
previous
milk.
episodes. So I would I would stay away from pounding chocolate milk right after a weigh-in. But but yeah, you want something that'll be able to digest quickly, give you energy, um, and like I said, it's a little bit of protein. Could be from like an energy bar, protein bar, a little bit of carbohydrates, maybe some fruit snacks, a little bit of grains with like a sandwich, peanut butter and honey type of thing, and to get yourself feeling energetic and ready to go.
Yeah, that's perfect. Spot on. And I think I got the easy one. Drinks, I think, is pretty easy. Water is your best friend, right? You really want to be drinking water, And on top of that, like I even liked mixing Gatorade. Like getting a bottle of Gatorade and pouring half of it, like in a blender bottle, and then filling the rest with water. Just because I didn't love personally just drinking a whole bottle of Gatorade. Kind of like just didn't love it. I think that works pretty well. As well as there's a lot of electrolyte drinks out there nowadays. I mean, I like the liquid IV. That's a popular one. I've heard some mixed reviews on it, but that's fine. Then if you go to any kind of nutrition store, they have a plethora of electrolyte drinks. Heck, you could even just get water and put some Himalayan salt in there. For some sodium, it'd be pretty much fine as well. So
I don't.
keep
That
keep
might
it
make me
basic.
bad, but
It might, yeah, it might taste nasty, but it does do what it's supposed to do. So I think that covers most of it. Do you have anything else, Jared? You think we should cover?
I think that's pretty good. And I would say talk to your coach. Your coach is going to try to give you good information about what to eat and drink. But that gives you some real good a really good place to start. And the only other thing I would add is make sure you're getting plenty of sleep.
Yes.
It's so important for your recovery. One thing that I've heard Penn State preaches, and I've started preaching to my wrestlers, is get 9 hours and 15 minutes of sleep every night. Because wrestlers work so hard. I don't think there's any other high school sport that works as hard as wrestlers. Um, you sweat so much, you're lifting weights, you're running. I mean, wrestling matches can be grueling, and you're doing 2 hours of wrestling in a practice. And so, for your brain, to be mentally sharp, and also for your mental health, like mental clarity too, you need sleep. And then for your muscles to recover, like that's when they're going to repair themselves, right? Because you're making little micro tears in your muscles as you're working out, and then your body repairs those, and that's how you get stronger and your muscle gets bigger. But if you don't sleep, you're not getting those repairs. So that's a huge thing. Get plenty of sleep. Um, if not, you're not going to be able to perform at your best. There's no substitute for not getting enough sleep.
100% agree with that. That's a wonderful point to end on. So eat healthy, get enough sleep. You guys will be set for the season. Um, Thanks everybody. We appreciate you listening in to our this latest episode. Make sure you go ahead and listen to our other episodes too. We really want to get some feedback on those interviews as well as our first couple episodes as well, talking about hydration and everything as well. So thank you.
Subscribe, comment.
Yes,
We want to hear from you.
do it all.